always something else whispered about Led Zeppelin, something more sinister than a rock group's after-hours vices. The worst rumor was the one that all the girls had heard coast to coast. Don't quote me, the girls said, and still say, but Led Zeppelin sold their souls to the devil in exchange for their instant success, their addictive charisma, their unbelievable wealth. The girls devoutly believed this, Led Zeppelin's purported Faustian bargain with Satan. Just look, they said. During their decade-long prime in the 1970s, Led Zeppelin was the biggest band in the world, representing the booming record business at its peak as its biggest act. There was something magical, unnatural about Zeppelin's rise to power. Now, they couldn't have done this by themselves, it was said. There was also a catch to this absurd fable. One of the 4 Zeppelin musicians, the girls insisted, wouldn't sell his soul to the devil. One of them said no and refused to sign in blood. And the girls pointed out, look what happened, or didn't happen, to the one who sat out the deal. He was the band's outsider and avoided the spotlight. He didn't even travel with the band when he could avoid it. He wouldn't let himself be manipulated. And years later, after all the deaths and disasters had befallen Led Zeppelin and the group had dissolved in shame and remorse, he was the only one to survive, almost unscathed. But the story about Led Zeppelin's supposed deal with the devil has a strong basis in popular musical tradition, especially considering that the group started out playing the blues. In fact, all the young English musicians to flood America in the wake of the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Animals, Yardbirds, and Kinks in the first wave, Cream, Fleetwood Mac, Jeff Beck, and Led Zeppelin in the second, considered themselves blues scholars. Before most of them ever set foot on stage, they had spent months and years locked in bedrooms playing old records, absorbing the classic U.S. blues of Blind Lemon Jefferson, Big Bill Broonzy, Skip James, Lead Belly, and Muddy Waters. Later, they discovered Elmore James, Sonny Boy Williamson, and Robert Johnson, king of the Delta blues singers, the possessed and demonic musician who embodied the folkish idea of the blues as the devil's music. In the delta of the Mississippi River, where Robert Johnson was born, they said that if an aspiring bluesman waited by the side of a deserted country crossroad in the dark of a moonless night, then Satan himself might come and tune his guitar, sealing a pact for the bluesman's soul and guaranteeing a lifetime of easy money, women, and fame. To this day, the blues singer is somewhat taboo in his community in the American South. Robert Johnson was the most crucial blues musician who ever lived, and people murmured that he must have waited by the crossroad and gotten his guitar fine-tuned. Born in Robinsonville, Mississippi, about 40 miles south of Memphis, about 1911, Robert grew up listening to the original country blues minstrels, Charlie Patton, Son House, and Willie Brown. By the time he was 20, Robert had learned to make his guitar cry and moan by sliding the broken neck of a glass bottle along the strings. By 1935, the enigmatic and secretive young musician had invented a ringing, percussive guitar style and wrote or collected a cycle of songs that later became the raw material for rhythm and blues, rock and roll, and rock music. He cut violent love songs like 3220 Blues and Kind-Hearted Woman, and bitter songs of loss like Love in Vain. There were lighter tunes of punning sexual imagery like Terraplane Blues and Traveling Riverside Blues, where Robert commands his paramour to squeeze his lemon till the juice runs down his leg, a lyric trademark of Robert Plant 40 years down the road. But Robert Johnson's trademark was the desperate sense of conviction in his harrowing songs of diabolic pursuit. In Me and the Devil Blues, he confesses, "Me and the devil were walking side by side. I'm gonna beat my woman till I get satisfied." And anyone who listens to even the scratchy 60-year-old recording of Hellhound on My Trail can experience the panicky strain through which Robert Johnson delivered his most chilling lines. "I've got to keep on moving, blues falling down like hail. I can't keep no money, Hellhound on my trail." By 1938, the recordings of this young genius began to filter north. In New York, producer John Hammond was preparing his famous From Spirituals to Swing concert, which would present the greatest Afro-American musicians to the rarefied atmosphere of Carnegie Hall. Hammond had heard Terraplane Blues and Last Fair Deal Gone Down and wanted Robert Johnson to perform at the concert. But word that Robert had been murdered began to circulate around the Delta. He had been poisoned by a jealous husband near Greenwood, Mississippi. His